Detroit Tenants Union and the Leland House residents. So I think I heard that somebody from the City of Detroit law office is going to be here to give us an update. I'll spoil that a little bit. The update is there's no update. The city is refusing to work with the tenants. The city is refusing to do anything. From the beginning, we asked the city to intervene on behalf of these tenants, as Mayor Lomdani has done in New York. It's not unprecedented. It's something that can be done, and it should be done, but they're refusing, and instead they're obstructing. Instead, what they're doing is they're challenging our motions. That we organized the legal team. We don't have the time to do this, right? But we did. We made the time so that we could help these folks. And it was important to us. And they're doing nothing, right? They're not intervening. In fact, they're challenging everything we do, and they're obstructing every effort. They're saying these residents can't move into this, go back into this building to return their property, but they're going to allow movers. What, magical force field do movers have that these residents don't have to go and get their own belongings, to save them from invasion of privacy, to save them from their things being damaged, stolen, whatever. And so we're asking for that to be met immediately. We also issued a demand to the city asking them to acquire this building. And that's not just a single demand. That's not just something that is about the Leland. That's about the city doing housing differently, right? We want to see the city do things like the home project that was done in California to acquire motels and hotels, turn them into affordable housing. To do something like Vienna did, right? Think transformatively about how housing could be done, and use the Vienna model to create social housing here. It creates long-term, permanently affordable housing and attracts people to this city and maintains the residents that we have. So that's really all I have to say. Thank you very much.
I don't understand why we entered into a consent agreement. Why? Because there were people living there. We did not want to displace the current tenants. The owners said that they had the capability to bring the building into compliance with our city code. That is essentially what the consent agreement said that was signed and approved by the court. We monitored their progress, and when it became clear to us a year later that they were not making the kind of progress that was important, we went back into court. Now that's a laborious process because we were starting the lawsuit all over again. We did think that despite the fact that we didn't have a court hearing coming up for the next 4 months, that conditions in the building were such that the tenants were safe and that the general circumstance that people were living in met the basic conditions around public health and safety. We then became aware that there was water in the basement, standing water. Now, all of you don't need any education to know that standing water in the building of that size and significance is a dangerous circumstance, number one, and a direct impact on public health, number two. BC is checking on them regularly and doing what they can by issuing tickets. We are informing the court through the good offices of Jason Harrison that conditions are deteriorating. We get to the point where Detroit Edison then says publicly, we are going to have to suspend electricity to the Leland House because they have not been paying their bills. No one else except the city of Detroit, through the good offices of HRD, called Detroit Edison and said, don't do that. They backed away. They said, yes, we will cooperate with you. At the time, DTE said that we will not cut the power off. Lord knows it had nothing to do with anybody associated with the city of Detroit. Then the transformer breaks in the basement where the water is, and now fixing the transformer has nothing to do with DTE cutting off power. Now there is no electricity in the building. No electricity means no lights. No electricity means no elevators. Fire marshal then comes and says, pursuant to their ordinance responsibilities, this is a dangerous building. It it has to be closed, the tenants have to move. Immediately contacts the tenant, and you, the city of Detroit, moves people to alternative housing. Now the question that's important to be asked here is, where's ownership? Why is this the city of Detroit's responsibility? It's our moral obligation. But legally, this is the owner's responsibility. They're the ones responsible. And in the midst of that, then the Leland House then declares bankruptcy and moves the action that we have in state court to federal bankruptcy court. At that point, the owners say, and this will really, I think, bring it home. At that point, the owners say, we have $77,000. $77,000 for a 25-floor building. I don't really, maybe Jason could tell us how many square feet, Mr. President, it actually is, but you know where the building is, over on Bagley. It's an entire block. It's a huge space. $77,000, come on. Is that really what you have available for the massive amount of rehabilitation that that building requires? We are making available to the bankruptcy court in terms of showing on our ledger all of the money that we have available. It is true, Mr. President, and members of the Detroit City Council, that the tenants were removed on an emergency basis and did not have time to get their belongings. That's 100% true. We have always been aware of it, and we have always been concerned about it. Now, in the bankruptcy court, the judge made the determination based on our request that those funds that were available, quote, for repair, be used to retrieve the tenants' belongings. So the idea was that we would go to each of the apartments, and we're talking about 40 to 50 of them, pack up their materials, and then take them to a public storage facility where they at their leisure could come and retrieve their belongings. This was supposed to go forward, and then the tenants union intervened into the case and said that the tenants should be allowed to retrieve their belongings. The building has no electricity. There are no lights. You're going to be using daylight power. People are on the 21st, 22nd floor. The circumstance is no less dangerous today than it was when the fire marshal made his decision. In this particular case, we could get a moving company to go in. First of all, you got to walk up 21 flights of stairs. Who's doing that?
The residents.
The residents.
Okay. With the moving company going up the stairs, packing the belongings, and moving them out, the tenants union indicated that they wanted an opportunity to have the tenants do that themselves. Fire marshal said no. Now the fire marshal said, how are you going to get that done? The difference between the professional moving company is the presence of insurance, the presence of workers' compensation, and the fact that the moving company is signing a waiver absolving the city of Detroit of any and all liability associated with the removal of the belongings. On the 24th, when we go back in, one of the thoughts that Mr. Harrison had, because the tenants quite rightly want to be obviously have a personal interest in how their belongings are managed. Fire marshal is going to have 2 inspectors present to be sure that things are being done in a safe manner. And the idea that Mr. Harrison had that I fully support is that we could have 1 or 2 members of the tenants union present to be sure that the process is working, that everything that is being done appropriate and respectful manner. HRD has done a good job in providing housing relocation and case management. The law department started this process against this ownership group 3 years ago. We weren't late to the party. We had the concerns of the tenants' health and safety forefront. People would be able to make claims should there be any damage to their property. The major thing is getting the tenants their property back, getting the tenants relocated into permanent housing, and causing these owners to bring this building into compliance. And if they're not gonna bring it into compliance, then they have to
And I
sell
know
it.
what you're saying, that perhaps they're gonna sell it, but they're not even worthy of any type of commission, any sale at all, based on the way they've treated these residents.
So, Member White, as it relates to the legislation that you're describing, yeah, we've been working, and I do know that my colleague, Diamond Conley, has been working very diligently with Team Waters to get the Tenants' Rights Commission up and running. We are close to having that fully functional, and I think that will be a huge step in the right direction. As it relates to shutting the building down, that would occur with us going to court and getting permission from the judge, shutting it down, and that's going to be for the judges. Member Water, it's going to be a last-ditch effort. They are really going to try to order and figure out with the owner how soon they can in fact come into compliance. They are not interested in displacing the tenants, and so if the tenants are living in a circumstance that's been deemed either by the health department, by BC, or the fire marshal as being a danger to public health and/or safety, that's the basis for us to go to court. And then it really is a determination for the judge to determine whether or not we have represented the facts that they can make a decision. The issue is always going to be, does the owner have the resources to bring the building in compliance? Does the judge accept the compliance plan that they're going to put forward? And if the judge doesn't and shuts the building down, then housing relocation through HRD then has the huge responsibility of moving the tenants into appropriate housing. And you know, that is not always, as you know, an easy task.
Yeah, I know that some of my staff members were engaged in trying to help relocate some people from the Leland building. Residence belongs. Is there a way, when people go in to pack up, can they notify that resident of that particular apartment that, hey, we're gonna be here on this date at that time to pack your things? And I know they can't necessarily go up in the building because the elevators and nothing else are working, but can they be outside, can they be somewhere so that they can kind of, in some way, have the dignity of overseeing what's being removed from their apartment?
So, Member Ward, actually, I think that's a good idea, and I'm glad Jason is on the call. We can figure out whether or not we can do something like that. And if it's not the tenant per se, maybe it is a tenant representative. Maybe there's more than one. Maybe there's a way for us to do that. We will try to figure out a way with the fire marshal's cooperation to get as much involvement with the tenants in some way to supervise the packing of their belongings. I don't think that's an impossible request. We just have to figure out what is going to be the safe way that the fire marshal will accept us to.
Okay, all right, well, good. I'd like to know, because I'm gonna and to ensure that the tenants are present in some way, participating in the packing and so forth, so that we can ensure where their belongings are going. They need to be able to help supervise that in some way.
Yes, ma'am.
The chair, can I have one comment to that question, court counsel, and through the chair?
Yes.
Yes, just FYI for the city council members and for you, Councilmember Waters, HRD has worked with many of the tenants. I don't have the number, I defer to HRD, and they do have an inspection checklist where they've taken down what they think the tenant thinks they have in their property, so that HRD would know that. So I just wanted to make sure the body knew that we have worked with them in that regard. I defer to HRD for a specific report on how many tenants that includes, but they have done that.
Council, my name is Stephen Remmer. I'm the organizer of the Detroit Tenant Union. At the Leland House, like you've heard, residents were displaced due to a power failure, and tenants were left without protection. So this is not an accident. This is what happens when renters have no guaranteed right to remain when ownership fails. So this is why we are advancing the right to renew ordinance. It includes a right to return provision for residents going through a situation like this. So in about 3 years, we've been coming talking to y'all about this right to renew ordinance. Leland House shows that there is a structural protection that is needed. We're also here formally proposing that the City of Detroit acquire the Leland building and convert it into city-controlled housing. Right now, we're paying for all of these displaced residents all of these fees, and there's no permanent resolution, anything to address the root problem. If private ownership fails, the city must stabilize it in public interest. We cannot allow another system or cycle of speculation or displacement. So I also want to talk about River Point Towers. We got our folks up there at the top row. The residents organized, they formed a union, and they have secured results. Maintenance issues addressed, they got the intercom fixed at the front door, the drainage and ventilation has started to be addressed. And this is what tenant organizing produces. It produces accountability. But what followed is retaliation. Evictions over minor issues. Union leaders like Ms. Jackie, Mike, AJ were targeted for standing up. When tenants fight for the rights and improve their building, they are punished. That exposes the imbalance of power in our city. And here's the truth. Tenants are already stabilizing buildings. We are enforcing habitability. We are creating accountability. The question is the city gonna work with us? Or we just gonna keep doing it by ourselves?
It's disappointing in what I perceive as an imbalance of enforcement here, and I want to give the benefit of the doubt to the new administration that we'll get this right. But as we're working to get this right, we're still having families that are displaced and living in deplorable conditions. So I say that to say that we have to do something immediately to fix this. And because I know, again, it's a large undertaking, but day after day that folks have to be without their things, they have to be relocated. That is not something that sits well with me, and it's not something that we can be proud of or happy about. And so I just want to say that to you, Corporation Council, and the folks that are here at BC, that we have to see a difference in this.
To summarize it for folks, what pathway are all parties taking? And again, commend Law Department, commend HRD, commend BC at this point. We're talking about, especially talking about a 3-year process. Not to take anything away from the 3 entities, city entities in particular. But now we have residents who have concerns about their property. It sounds like we, as a city, are trying to figure that out.
Yes, sir.
Part of the challenge that we have is that level of communication, what that looks like. Folks are coming to us constantly asking for answers that we cannot provide. So in a truncated version, what should folks expect in terms of movement to allow for the residents to retrieve their property? Again, understanding that we're limited. We don't have a magic wand we can just wave. We don't want to have folks jeopardize their health and safety in a building that is unfit for them to walk in. But just looking for a time frame to now try to
see where we can advance this particular issue, knowing again, we don't have at this point a legal obligation, but a moral obligation to make sure that we communicate to our residents and do everything we can to make sure that they are as whole as possible in this situation. Give us a little short version of what they should expect and a potential timeline.
So, Mr. President, we meet with the court on February the 24th. We hope to get the court's permission to cause the move to occur. And then, Mr. Harrison, how many of the tenants have signed off and given us permission to enter their space?
We've been told through the chair, we've been told by HRD approximately 20
Out of how many?
out of 31.
So we have permission, Mr. President, of 20 persons to enter their space, to pack their belongings, secure them, and deliver them to a public storage facility where they can, at their leisure, retrieve their belongings.
So for the record, it sounds like Mr. Harrison, Attorney Harrison has the information on each. For those remaining individuals that have not signed off, is it a situation where they have either refused or we just have not been able to locate them to fill out a particular form of approval?
Now, we know where all 31 tenants are, Mr. President. So far, the 11 have not given us permission to enter their space. We need them to give us their permission to enter the space.
Corporation Counsel, you said you guys weren't late to the party. It sounded like you didn't show up at all to me. This is 3 years. 3 years, and it took a year. You had a consent agreement. The building was deteriorating long before that, but again, we're talking about low-income residents, who people sometimes don't care about. This building just did not become unsafe to live in. They've had many maintenance failures, health and safety issues with mold and water damage and pest infestation. This is not good. The code enforcement action made it not livable a long time ago. We have a department here called BC. You say it's not our responsibility, but it is our responsibility. That's why we have building safety engineering. We have to make the tough decisions, not when it's an emergency, but long before it becomes an emergency. You have to show up so you don't have to get up at the last minute. When that building started deteriorating, our job was to shut it down. Here we are 3 years later. 3 years later, and we're still saying to these residents, they can't get their things, and first of all, I don't want anyone touching my stuff. I might have my great grandmother's heirloom somewhere. I may have my deceased child's photos somewhere. People packing their stuff, we know what that looks like. Mm-hmm. We get it every day when we get stuff in the package, in the mail that's tore up and broken. We had ample time to take those residents in there to gather their things, because we knew 3 years ago the building was deteriorating. We knew that we should have not waited for DTE to alarm the city. Thank God for DTE, because had they not informed the city, it would have been even worse. And this is in the worst of temperatures. Our residents came in today upset. So I guess the 20 that signed off, the other 11 or 12 must didn't. They were here today speaking. It's an embarrassment for me to hear my heart palpitating and hear residents that are dislocated because we could have done a better job. We have things in place, and that's why we have inspections regularly. I have asked the Department of BC to provide with me some of those numbers that I'm still waiting for. It is not right for us to stand here and say we've done the best that we could when we did not, because our best was not good enough. It's not good enough for me, it's not good enough for our residents. And I am in District 5 every day. I'm going out, I'm knocking on doors, and I'm talking to residents because they're calling me. And do you know, I have been in buildings where I have been unguarded with, I see no residents because the office people want to hide them from me. I know what's going on. I was in a building and my staff was told they could not even enter the building. I was told I couldn't even enter a building. And I had a roach in my head that our EP unit had to knock out for me because the ceiling was open, it was unsanitary. We have failed a lot of our senior buildings in the city. Just a lot of our buildings, period, we have failed them. And it's not right to act like we don't have a responsibility. When we know 3 years is too long, 3 years, when they were out, they've been on television, before the holidays. If someone can go in there and get those things, someone can escort those people in there and get their belongings. Surely they can be escorted, just because it's their place. And when they're paying their rent, those landlords took their rent. They got their money, and that is not right to take their money and then all of a sudden, you just imagine giving your last dollar to pay your rent, and then you're put in the street in 15 days. Where are they to go? Some of them don't have family, they may not have children. It is not right to sit here and talk about these landlords as if, yeah, you said they're the lowest scum of the earth that's taking their money and then running off with it. I don't care how much they had, it's not right. And we need to call it exactly what it is. We need our law department to stand up. We need the BC to own up, because it's not right. And I am so disappointed. Even just being a newly elected person, my phone is ringing. Right now, I'm calling to a meeting because I am going to the buildings, but I'm not about to stop. I'm going every single time they call. They want to stop me from taking pictures too, because we've done a poor job. Anytime you have 70,000 landlords that have not been compliant in the city of Detroit, that's a problem with the leadership. And the leadership need to be removed.
Stand up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you think this is, and you think this is gross negligence? And the reason why I'm asking that is because if you do, from my understanding, this would qualify for treble damages. And if it did, I think that not only could the city recoup the costs, but also we could provide money, you're talking hypothetically here, but also we could provide money for the residents who lost these properties, lost assets, and lost their housing.
So, Mr. President Pro Tem, through the chair, that's one of the reasons that I'm fairly positive that the ownership went into bankruptcy court. Through the state court process, you're right, treble damages would have been possible should we have prevailed in the case. In bankruptcy court, the city of Detroit is a creditor just like everybody else.
Yeah, and I'm not a law expert or a bankruptcy expert, but I'm assuming even if they're going through that process, there are assets that this company holds. I don't know about their portfolio, but I'm assuming they hold assets they can sell to be able to pay for or liquidate through that bankruptcy process for the purpose of being able to pay out.
Which is why, Mr. President Pro Tem, they're seeking permission from the court to sell the building. They want to sell the building so they can pay their creditors.
Okay, but in terms of paying the creditors, like you were saying, that's just paying people at cost. We're not talking about treble damage.
That's right.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Because I understand what you're saying and why you're doing that. But I just think that what happened was so incredibly egregious. The way in which not just the residents were treated, that they were negligent. They knew that the power wasn't working. They knew about the water in the basement. They knew that these things happened. It didn't do anything. I just think that is a classic case of treble damages. People have been harmed here. The city is spending money it should not be spent. Taxpayers are having to carry this weight and harm as well. So I think not only should the city be compensated for that, but I think the people who have suffered from this should also be compensated. And I think treble damages is the best way to be able to do that legally. And so I understand, you have to go through the process, and I'm not a lawyer, I'm not gonna sit up here trying to lecture former Supreme Court Justice on the law, but I do think that this was such a classic case of just gross negligence.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Just a question, I'm trying to take a long answer and truncate it a bit. DTE, and they're not here today. It sounds like the transformer piece is what really took everything over the years.
Yes, sir.
This is, you don't believe in the democracy to take people's belongings and hold them hostage like that. So give them justice at the Leland House. Thank you.
Let them back into their home.
Followed by Russ Myers.
Good morning. My name is Marcellus Bell.
first time here, due to the Leland House. I apologize to the community for not stepping up and being a voice for a solution where people need. We met with the CBO, as King, we met with Aaron Good, we met with Andrew Matthews, 2020, we met in 2021, about the development of the Leland House. The tenants were asked to stay and be a part of the investment with the other investment groups. With our rent, they added all our rents up. 5 years, we spent over $50,000. The city want their money, but we can't get our money for our apartment. So we want a right to return, or we want our buyout. Yeah, for low income, we would be paying $750 for 1 bedroom, $900 for 2 bedroom. If your income was $28,000, between $28,000 and $44,000, your rent was $900 for 1 bedroom, $1,080 for 2 bedroom. If your income was over $44,000, your 1 bedroom was $1,200, 2 bedroom $1,800. Now they want to displace us into the Regency, the boosters, for more rent than this. So we just want our right to return. We heard. When we're in the news, our videos are edited, and what we want to say is not in the news, but our belongings. But we do want our belongings also.
Salute.
Went back and gave the owners, the Leland apartment building, monies that were in arrearage. I don't understand why somebody will advise them to do that. That is absolutely reckless for them to do that, especially under those types of conditions.
Next speaker, Dana Johnson, followed by Melody Richards.
Hello, everyone.
Morning.
I come to you standing in solidarity.
A little close to that mic, we can't hear you.
I come to you standing in solidarity with the Leland House. I have a sister and a brother and friends that has been displaced. They actually had a hostile takeover is what she's talking about. They had less than a few moments to grab whatever they can get in their hands and get out. They have a list of demands. They want their belongings. And also they want to retrieve their own belongings, not have some moving company come and grab their things that they have had for 10, 20 years. You know, they have artwork, they have equipment, they have medical supplies, they have a lot of things that they want to retrieve. These things have been sitting there for months now. This has been taken on for months now. So we don't know the damages. It also been a break-in. We don't know if the belongings are still even there. It's a lot going on, and we're just asking for everybody to stand in solidarity with us and help them retrieve their properties. Also get temporary functions to the elevators, you know, so they can just go up there and just get their belongings, and then also have a chance to return back to their homes. This was home to them. This was home to them. And I stand in solidarity and saying, let Leland House residents back into their homes.
Thank you.
Next speaker of the Leland House. Basically, I'm going on what Dana just said about us wanting to retrieve our belongings, ourselves, our personal belongings ourselves, because we don't want anybody going through our property, just like anybody else won't want anybody going through their property, moving their property, damaging their property. For you to restore lights for the elevators so we can move our property out of the building, and the right to return to the building once they restore it and do whatever they do with it. We just ask that you all do something about the whole situation, because it has been very stressful on every resident in the league. So please listen to our opinions and please do something. Thank you.
You know, it was just unnecessary to go that route. And I'd like for you all to set some kind of ordinance that you have to plan with the people before you kick them out. You have to give them at least a year before you kick them out. Like I said, I want my stuff. I need my stuff. All my neighbors need their things. Charles is not here, but I'm speaking on his behalf. As Charles lives in Whitney Gill. And please, as my girl said, let me get your ass and your shoulders. This is my trust. Thank you.
My name is Kathy. Catherine Guyton, and I am a member of the Leland House tenant committee, and also a member or a tenant at the Leland. This entire situation has cost me mentally, physically, and emotionally. I was only days away from moving into the new home that I was going to be moving in before I was evacuated, causing me to lose that residence and the stability I so desperately need to thrive, as I also care for my 9-year-old grandson. This, too, has affected him, and he's here. The financial toll that it has taken me through has been devastating, as I was working at the Leland at the time of the evacuation. But I no longer have that job or a way to earn a living due to this situation because I no longer have an address or a place to even call home. My savings are gone, my bank accounts are overdrafted, and I have lost my entire food supply. I have been forced to replace even the most basic necessities. The clothes, shoes, underwear, and socks I am wearing now are only because I had to replace them. But it still isn't enough. I just want my voice to be heard. I'm hurting. I would truly appreciate if y'all would have some kind of heart. Whether it was your brother, your sister, your niece, your nephew, your grandmother. Some kind of heart.
Right. Yes, you may put. So my name is Daryl Stewart, 67 years old. I am a tenant in the Leland and a member of the Leland Tenant Union. What I'm here to say is this. I'm gonna break it down like this. All of a sudden, we're doing okay in the building. Power goes out. We got to evacuate under the guise of urgency, emergency. We get that. We got to move forward with our lives. But are we trying to get these little things we need to move forward? We can't because emergency. Get out. Okay, we got ourselves together now. We need to retrieve these things we need from the building, which we can't do because it's evacuated and deemed unoccupied. We have to get in and get our things that we need to move forward. This is stuff like, think about this. All of a sudden, you left your grandmother's diamond ring she gave you. You got this stuff from Dad back 50 years ago. You got stuff you collected these last 20 years that you need to move forward, like birth certificates, Social Security cards, things like that, that will move you forward in this world we need these things in. And medical gear that's inside there. Are you trying to grab that in a state of urgency? Even some people left pets. We got them out. What we're against right now is this. We need to get in that building to retrieve our belongings so we can move forward. That's it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And this is my ideological family here, and we all going through this. And trust me.
Yes, sir.
And it's becoming a mental and psychological and physical thing on us also.
Yes, sir.
And we're not.
We also need to support their efforts to turn the Leland House into truly affordable housing for the residents of Detroit. I just want to point out one thing. You acknowledge that Reverend Jesse Jackson passed away, I think it was yesterday. I don't know if you know, I think this is before any of you were on city council. He joined us for a demonstration to stop a property tax foreclosure about 15 years ago. If he was here today, he would be standing with the residents of the Leland House and the other residents of the other complexes that are in deplorable condition, and the city's BC department does nothing to improve the living conditions. So in honor of Reverend Jesse Jackson, I urge you to support the demands of the Detroit Tenants Union. Thank you. Now, one other thing. ICE out of Detroit, ICE out of Michigan, defund ICE.
What is the city council going to do about the living situations of seniors are living in all these tenant union represented places? And how fast can we expect anything to be done? And that's all I want to know.
DTE said, hey, stalls out. Let the community, let us try to figure out, how to rectify this. And he stood down.
That's right.
how long has it been now since that transformer's been out? And is that still a push from us to get DTE to at least allow the transformer to be repaired? Because the transformer really shouldn't be the property owners. It should be the infrastructure of
transformer
DTE.
is the ownership issue.
I'm back into the house. Back into their house.